Hey, it's the Sustainable Ministry Show, episode number 7. Whazzzup? Well, hey everybody, we are back again with the Sustainable Ministry Show. Today we've got Stephen Ingram and Melissa Rao and Andrew Zirschky with us today. So why don't you guys begin, just kind of do a brief introduction of yourself, where you are, and then let's hear what your favorite social media app is.
All right. Well, my name is Stephen Ingram. I work at a Methodist church in Birmingham, Alabama. I'm the director of student ministries there, and I'm also a lead consultant with Ministry Architects. And you can find me at www.organicstudentministry.com, and that's where I blog and talk about all sorts of things, student ministry, but also sort of other issues as well. And in terms of social media apps, it's not an actual social media app, but I use it a lot for social media. It's called Whazzzup. It's a text over picture app that is really, really clean, really easy to use, and I'm just a huge fan. I use it on social, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, just kind of across the board. So it's a great app.
Nice. Melissa?
I'm Melissa Rao, and I just moved to outside of Philadelphia about 3 months ago. My husband is a rector at an Episcopal church there, and so I've been a lead consultant with Ministry Architects for some time now. And I think my favorite social media is, I would say, Facebook. I do Instagram and Twitter, but Facebook is really where I'm at most of the time.
Great. Hey, I'm Andrew Zirschky. I'm the director of academics at the Center for Youth Ministry Training, and also teach youth ministry and practical theology from Memphis Theological Seminary. 1.6 billion users can't be wrong, right? So I use Facebook a lot. It's kind of my personal platform of choice. As far as utility that I use a lot, Buffer is one of those that I think stands out. Allows for the scheduling of posts to a variety of platforms. Hootsuite is similar to that, but I've been using Buffer a lot lately.
And I am Bryant Johnson. I'm the director of youth ministries at Harrison United Methodist Church in Charlotte. And I probably engage with Instagram more than anything. On Facebook a lot for different reasons and communication with folks, but I probably engage on Instagram more than anything. I'll also use If This Then That as a tool to kind of connect things together. If you're not familiar with that, you can put in different accounts, whatever your accounts are, from just about any social media thing, and then link those together. So if this happens on one account, then this happens on another account. Pretty good resource there. Andrew has recently written and will soon to be released a new book called Beyond the Screen. And so we want to dig into a couple things there a little bit. One of those being phatic language. Andrew, will you describe a little bit of what that is?
Yeah, phatic communication is something that sociologists and people that talk about communication have been looking at really since the 1920s. But it definitely is something really important for the social media age. Basically, phatic communication is communication that has no content. It has no informational value necessarily. So a handshake is a form of phatic communication. You're not communicating as much something important as you're communicating rather your presence and your acceptance of the other person. One of the classic examples I use is the old Budweiser beer commercial where you got these guys that come in the room and they're like, "Hey, what's up?" And the response back to that is "What's up?" There's no meaningful content perceivable in the entire Budweiser commercial, and that's what made it kind of funny in a lot of ways. But there's actually something really valuable about that kind of communication, that phatic communication that doesn't communicate content as much as it communicates presence and acceptance of one another, especially in a social media world where we find ourselves kind of in different geographical locations, often from the people that we are closest with. text messaging and Facebook messaging and a variety of other things allow for static communication to happen. For teenagers especially, to be able to send a short message to one another that isn't about communicating any particular meaningful content, but it's about saying, hey, I'm out here, do you remember I'm here? And hopefully they'll get a message back that's similar. So when we pick up teenagers' cell phones, when we look at the messaging that they're involved in, it's really easy for adults to look at that and go, look, this is meaningless, this is drivel. But in reality, there's some really meaningful content happening. It's the communication that they are present with one another, that they're available to one another, that they are meaningful in one another's lives, and there's an acceptance that happens there. And that is the foundation, really, of really good relationality. Social scientists have found that couples that use a lot of social media or other forms of static communication actually have much more intimate and meaningful relationships because there's something about feeling like someone is going through your day with you and aware of what's happening and what you're doing. So that's kind of static in a nutshell.
Can you explain how static language or static communication and small talk are different?
Yeah. Small talk has some content to it. You know, what we would call mundane exchange or mundane chatter. There's some content happening there where you're talking about kind of the what many people would say are meaningless things in one's life. But static communication is more, maybe an emoji text message, for example. I had a couple guys that I talk about in the book who were text messaging each other during small group one night. And I kind of stopped and said, hey, what are you guys doing? What's so important that you needed to text message someone across the group from you? And they turned their phones around and showed me that it was just a series of thumbs up emojis. And what was going on there was static communication in the midst of being in a small group that they didn't kind of know some of the other people in the small group as well. They were communicating with each other. They were kind of on the same page, that they were present with one another. And so they weren't saying anything about their lives necessarily to one another except, hey, are you with me? I'm with you. We do this often through glances. You know, if you're in a room where something silly is going on in a meeting, you'll often catch somebody's eye who you know probably also thinks that something silly is going on, and you kind of make a little face, at them, and they, kind of wink back. It's communicating, that we're on the same page, that we're in this together. Mundane exchange or chit chat is really talking about the stuff in life that most people don't care about. And there's a lot of criticism of digital culture generally, but especially teenagers, that they engage in this meaningless, mundane chit chat about, the classic example is people twittering, using Twitter to tweet out this is what I ate for breakfast. And there's been a lot of cultural criticism of that kind of exchange. In reality, that exchange as well is really meaningful because the only person that cares about what I ate for breakfast is someone who loves me, someone who is interested in the mundane details of my life. And so when we look at what teenagers are doing, with static communication that has no content, and mundane exchange that has content that no one outside of that relationship probably thinks is that important, those two things are the foundation actually of really meaningful relationships, and they allow for entryway into more robust conversation and deeper conversation.
Andrew, what's really striking to me, and it's on the cover of your book, it's a really striking image of the teenager, the stereotypical teenager with earbuds in, looking down at the phone and texting. With what you're talking about in terms of static communication, how lonely are our students that they can be in a room with 50 people, but they're having to throw these lines out to people who aren't physically present with them in order to feel that kind of connection with people?
Yeah, that's a great question. We criticize students a lot for that, for ending up in a room right next to other people and yet using their phones to kind of find communication with somebody else. The reality of that, though, is that that may say something about the nature of the relationships that we have with one another face to face in that particular group, that a student is going out and looking for someone who knows them, someone who will respond to them, someone with whom they're comfortable to kind of be in communication with. When we see teenagers staring into their phones, it's actually not to avoid social contact. It's to run to social contact that is more comfortable for them, often more meaningful for them. And so when they find themselves in a room with people they don't know well, they hide. We've always done this. People have always hidden behind something. And so you get into a social situation that's awkward. You might hide behind your cup. You might, in church, you hide behind your bulletin. With the advent of the cell phone and the ubiquity of social media, teenagers are actually able to hide from the awkwardness of the social situation around them by going online to somebody that they know well, and that they kind of have this ongoing, kind of presence relationship with, this feeling of, hey, I can message you wherever I am.
Yeah, it stirs a story with me. We did an assessment at a church earlier this year, and one of the young girls in the assessment had shared, she was a high school student, and she shared sometimes she just walked into the room on her phone. Even if she wasn't texting anybody, she held it up and had something up on the screen because depending on who was there, she knew whether or not she would be welcomed into the space. And so she kept the phone up just as a way to feel like they thought she was engaged with people, and was not coming into to the space alone, which I hear you speaking to. Maybe it's a point in which we can kind of judge the temperature of relationships within the youth ministry, and not the only way, certainly not the only tool to be fully dependent on it, but it may be one of those things that we pay attention to analyze and decide where we want to take our relationships within the youth ministry, the work that needs to be done, where we need to move forward with that. Something else I'm curious about too, Andrew, is you talk about attending to the chatter. So the noise and the constant back and forth that's happening for staff people in the church to attend to that. What does that look like when you say that? What do you envision happening?
What we know about the way that relationships are formed is that mundane chit chat, just the meaningless little things of life, and truly being present in those conversations, and listening to them, asking meaningful questions about that, is a really important part of relationship building. Andy Root has talked about the purpose of place sharing with students. That place sharing is about entering into the suffering of the hard things in life or those times of crisis. But in reality, place sharing begins with attending to and be non-dramatic and be everyday, and sharing those aspects of life with students and being present as they share those with us.
Andrew, I'm interested when you think about how youth group takes place on a weekly basis. What do your findings, all the things that you have researched, how does that change how we approach Sunday night youth group? How does that change how we approach Sunday school? How does that change how we approach small groups? How does the pedagogy and just the environment change on a weekly basis?
Yeah, I think a couple things. I think it changes the teacher-to-student relationship some, or it should. And I think it should change the student-to-student relationship some as well. We have thought about Sunday night youth group exactly as that, Sunday night youth group, kind of putting in this little hour-long box. We've thought about Sunday school as something that we ask teachers to do for an hour to deliver content. And even in some ways, we thought about youth group throughout the week as a very fixed, bounded time. And one of the things that I think is really important to recognize is that relationships that are meaningful in a digital culture don't happen in an hour. They happen in an unbounded fashion. That doesn't mean that they have to be 24/7 continuous, constantly consuming relationships, although there are definitely teenagers that are looking for those kind of relationships with their peers. But I think if we have youth volunteers and youth pastors that think that I can walk into the room for this hour, I can be relational during this hour, and then I don't have to talk to or see these students again until the next week, I think we're fooling ourselves, because not only does that reduce the reception of students to what's going on in that hour. But it also makes them feel like we're not really in relationship with them as much as we're in kind of this delivery mode of, hey, this person just comes in for an hour and delivers content to me, as opposed to somebody that I really know and that I'm living life with and doing faith with and understanding the meaning of faith through.
Well, thanks so much, Andrew. Your insight has been enlightening, to say the least. I'm really excited about the book. I've already recommended it to a youth pastor at a Presbyterian church down in South Carolina, and have been trying to pass it along because I think it really kind of flips some of where people have been with technology, and provides a whole new way about going about ministry and engaging through it. So thank you for that as well. Where can people keep up with you, and where might they be able to find the book if they're interested?
Yeah, I'm at ymprof.com. You can find me on Twitter at ymprof as well. And then the book is available through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and I think we say other fine booksellers. Is that how it works?
Sounds good.
Find it online.
Excellent. Melissa, where can people keep up with you?
Feel free to email me at melissa@ministryarchitects.com, or you can look me up at Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. I'm on all of those.
But if they really want you, Facebook is the place.
Yeah, I think it's just like Melissa Rao. I don't know. It might be Melissa _Rao or something crazy like that. I don't know.
Nice. Stephen?
Come hang out with me over at organicstudentministry.com and join in the conversation. You can also contact me that way as well.
Excellent. And I'm Bryant. You can email me at Bryant at ministryarchitects.com, or sorry, my screen just went blank. It's going to be really bad for video. You can email me at Bryant at ministryarchitects.com, or Facebook at facebook.com/Bryant Johnson. Thanks so much, you guys.
Ha ha!